July the 3rd, 2012. You're about to watch The Amazing Spider-Man 1. You're excited for this new guy called Andrew Garfield after Tobey Maguire's trilogy. You've been waiting for this moment for 5 years now. Finally, you watched the film. It was a great new beginning for another Spider-Man journey. So you got excited for the second movie. Just after 2 years, in 2014, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. You watched it too. It wasn't as good as you expected, but you're still excited for the third movie. So you started to wait for the next film. You wait, but it doesn't release. Then you see a completely different Spider-Man in Captain America: The Civil War. But what happened to The Amazing Spider-Man 3? The movie had just established its own universe. New villains were coming. Fans were loving Andrew's Spider-Man. Even the second movie alone made over $700 million. But why was it cancelled? This is the story of The Amazing Spider-Man 3. When you're building a house, you need a strong foundation. The same goes for creating a cinematic universe. Every new movie should be built on top of all the previous movies. That was exactly what Sony had in mind when they rebooted Spider-Man with The Amazing Spider-Man in 2012. They had plans for a new Spider-Man cinematic universe, but things didn't go as planned. Let's explore why The Amazing Spider-Man 3 will never come and what led to the downfall of Sony's Spider-Universe. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was released in 2014, and while it wasn't a critical success, it did make a decent amount of money at the box office. In fact, plans for The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4 were already planned and ready to start, but Sony wasn't ready for one thing, and that one thing happened in November 14, 2014. That Monday morning, a hacker group known as Guardians of Peace leaked a release of confidential data from Sony Pictures. The data include personal information about the emails between Sony employees, copies of unreleased films, plans for future movies, and scripts for certain films. The emails revealed that the studio wasn't happy with The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and that they were struggling to come up with a strong story for the next movie. The emails showed that Sony was planning to create a Spider-Man cinematic universe that would include spin-off movies for characters like Venom and the Sinister Six. With all that leaked data, they left with a cinematic universe plan that everyone already knows about. But what if I told you that the Sony hack wasn't the only reason why The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was cancelled? If you remember, in the beginning of this video, I told you that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 made over $700 million. Yeah, it may seem like a lot of money, especially if you consider that the movie's budget was $200 million. While $500 million may sound like a success for a movie, it wasn't enough for Sony to make another movie. And so, Sony hit the reset button and rebooted the Spider-Man series again. This time, they joined forces with Marvel Studios. Tom Holland was introduced as the new Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War, and then blew up with his new own solo movies. Spider-Man: Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home became huge success. And let's not forget about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which introduced us to a whole new world of Spider-Verses. Looking back, it's clear that Sony's plan for an Amazing Spider-Man cinematic universe were too ambitious. They were trying to build a house without a strong foundation. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 tried to do too much at the same time, introducing too many villains and setting up too many plot threads for future movies. It's no wonder that viewers somehow felt overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 will never come because of all these factors, but in the end, it all worked out for the best. Tom Holland's Spider-Man has become a fan favorite, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse proved that there's still plenty of life left in the Spider-Man franchise. You know, when you see these as a whole, the saddest part of this story is a boy with unfinished dreams.
It's worth it. It's worth the struggle. It's worth the pain. It's worth even the tears, the bruises, and the blood. And I wouldn't be able to stand here in front of you guys right now without feeling that Spider-Man was here with me, with his reassuring hand on my shoulder, making sure I